Welcome to the iPrint Duplication demonstration and explanation video. This demonstration is going to cover this iPrint Configuration Duplication Script that is available on Novell Cool Solution. The intent of this script is to take an existing iPrint server configuration and duplicate it or replicate it to a backup server. It can also be used for migration purposes, although there is an iPrint migration tool which handles that and has more features and is somewhat more robust. So the primary use that we foresee this script is to create a backup iPrint server. Let me explain a scenario where this is useful. Imagine you have your hundreds of printer agents on a print manager, and everybody's printing to it. You have maybe thousands of users printing to it, and you have a problem with that server. It could be an Apache problem, eDirectory problem, a hardware problem, print manager problem, writes, any type of problem, and you don't have the time or desire to troubleshoot this while you are trying to get your end users back up and printing. If you had run this iPrint duplication script prior to hitting this problem, you can quickly, non-intrusively redirect all of your end users to the backup server once you realize that the server has become unavailable and the service has become unavailable. And later we'll describe tools where you can be notified when the print manager service is unavailable. This can be extremely useful in keeping high availability. It's worth mentioning that Novell, of course, has cluster services, which also has the intent of high availability, which is a very good solution. The advantage of clustering is that the failover can happen in an automated fashion. The disadvantage of clustering is, what if the configuration problem that you're experiencing is with the print manager database, which is held in the shared resource? You will simply be migrating that same problem to the other node, and users will still not be able to print. Or what if the problem is with the eDirectory objects, the print manager or printer agent eDirectory objects, and for whatever reason the service cannot load because of those problems? Those same eDirectory objects will be used when you migrate the cluster resource to another node. This solution will be a completely different server, different eDirectory objects, different print manager database, different Apache configuration, different writes. It'll be a completely independent configuration. So before we show this script and how it works, it's important to understand how the iPrint client works. Here is a printer I have installed on a Windows 7 machine. It's called Printer02 on IPP://OES11, OES11A. Now OES11A happens to be the name of my server, and I'm not really using DNS. I'm using host file to emulate DNS, but basically OES11A resolves to the IP address of the server hosting the print manager. This means the print manager is tied to this server. My clients will always be pointing to OES11A, and if I move this service to another server, my clients will still be pointing to OES11A. This is not a desirable configuration, and let me explain why. So here's this configuration. This is my active server. The DNS name is OES11A. I don't have a suffix in this example. The print manager, as we saw, is bound to OES11A. The IP address ends in 129, and all of my clients are pointing to this server because of this IPP://OES11A part of its name. It's important to understand that these clients, they only know two things about the printer. They know the name and the address to which he should be bound to, which server is hosting it. And it's important to note the client does not know the name of the print manager. It does not know the eDirectory context of printer 01 or printer 02, whichever printer I happen to have installed. All it knows is the printer agent name and the address to which the print manager is bound, OES11A in this case. Now let me show you where that binding occurs. This is a PuTTY session to this OES11A server, and I'm going to open up the ipsmb.conf. You can read the path here if you're not sure where this configuration file resides. When you create your print manager, one of the questions it asks, and I'll show you this, is a DNS name or IP address, and it populates this value right here, the PSM host address, print server manager host address. And when I created the object, I chose OES11A. This is not recommended, and I'll later show you what is recommended. It's not recommended to point to the DNS name of the server, but rather a transferable DNS name, which I'll explain later. So you can see is when I install the printers, it points to OES11A. I also want to show you, I'll go to iManager, and well, I was going to show you the network address. I have it different here, so I'm going to go to the active print manager. Notice it says network address is bound to OES11A. And if I go to identification, it shows OES11A. I'm showing you all the ways you can view that it's bound to OES11A. Another way is to highlight over the IPP page. You highlight your mouse over a printer to install it. And if you look at the bottom here, in fact, here the URL is too long, so I'm going to copy this link. And I'm going to open up Notepad, and I'll paste that in there. Notice it says, oh, I need to refresh this page. I had a previous configuration for a previous test. So I'm going to copy this, copy the link location, and paste this into here. Notice it says OES11A as part of the install link. So everything's telling me that this is OES11A that this printer agent is pointing to. And let me show you in iManager when you create a print manager object. I'm not going to create one, but I just want you to see how that's decided. Notice you put in the print manager name, the container, the eDirectory server that it's going to authenticate against when it loads, the driver store that it's going to be using, and here it is, iPrint service. You can choose a DNS name or an IP address. And many people will put the DNS name of the server, which again is not recommended, and I'll explain further why in our next segment of this demonstration.